Hello, dear Starshines. Christina here with Lightbody Academy. Welcome to today's Lunchtime Chats. For those of you who are new, my name is Christina and I'm an acceleration expert. And we are here to talk about those topics and issues that are significant for us starseeds, way showers, and new paradigm visionaries. You see, we have capacities that the rest of our human family don't necessarily embrace. Therefore, we have a very different experience to these daily challenges that we're faced with. And I am here to provide, to the best of my ability, a liberated perspective to these events, to these challenges that we're facing on a daily basis. And I think we can all agree with all that's happening in the world. There's lots of challenges, lots of new formulations of how to relate to chaos and turmoil, and how do we navigate these waters, right? So welcome, 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 everybody. As you jump in, go ahead and say hi. Let me know that you are here. And I'm going to mention some of the things that I want to talk about today. One is I want to talk about energy drains. I want to talk about harmonics, proper use of your energy, and a whole nother level of discerning. Okay. So I want to liberate some of you guys from some maybe perceptions you have that are keeping you locked in some relationships that are quite literally draining your life force energy dry. So I want to talk about some of that stuff. And then I also want to go into the dying process. I want to really dive into that with you guys. So you can see another perspective here of opportunity that that presents when we are holding space for a beloved who is passing, or making contact with a beloved who has passed in the who has passed like before, like in a timeline before now, like maybe your parents passed a few years ago, or grandparents or great grandparents, stuff like this. So I want to talk about the transitioning, and I want to talk about the death rites and how this is really can impact your family lineage. The times that we're having right now are getting more and more chaotic, aren't they? A little bit more and more turmoil, and it's only turmoil because we're plugged into social media. For a lot of us, it's only turmoil because we're plugged into social media, and perhaps in some of these news outlets. If we just were completely unplugged from these things, a lot of this stuff wouldn't even be in our awareness, and we would just be walking through our day and everything's fine. Maybe we notice there's a lot more money being spent at the pump and some other resources, but other than that, our day would be a typical day, normal day. But because we are plugged in to all these networks, we're plugged into social media, we're plugged into all these news outlets, we pretty much get to know about the stress of the world. The chaos and turmoil is happening all over the world. And when we absorb that stuff, when we're paying attention to that stuff, we all of a sudden have the world's worth of turmoil in our awareness. Now, so in this case, some people might say this is where that saying ignorance is bliss comes in. And in some aspects, this is true. But also there is a place where, when is enough information, right? When is when is it what is enough for you to know in order to live your life in as a responsible human caretaker of this realm? Where is the line for that? Do you need to know about the about certain different things that are happening over the world? And I pose this question because in the news, we're not told about all the things that are happening in the world. We're told only about the things that the powers that be want us to know, so they can shape a certain opinion about it, right? So in a way, this news is not really it's not really put out there for us to be made aware, so we have for our information. It's really put out there to manipulate us, so we have a particular kind of opinion about something, right? So when we approach information in that way, that kind of helps us discern a little bit more. But I'm not really here to talk about social media networks. I'm just here to paint the picture on what is adding to the turmoil and chaos into our world that perhaps does not need to be there. If you, darling starshine, have not liberated yourself by shutting off the news, do it as soon as you can, because really that makes life so much better. You can spend your evenings enjoying writing poetry or making art or playing music or having a great conversation with a friend, or sharing a wonderful bottle of wine, or however you enjoy company. You could be spending your time in enjoyment versus going into this deep programming that is meant to create more uh, emotional reactions, right? So so uh so that's where I want to start going into. I want to paint a picture for you guys on there's a new level of discernment that we're being faced with as starseeds, as way showers. Some of us may have already been awoke to certain parts of this, like such as disconnecting from social media, disconnecting from news, disconnecting from TV watching and all that stuff. Many of us have woke up to that, but the bar is getting raised even higher. And this is because of the acceleration. It's even more important than ever that we keep our energy stores at optimal capacity. Okay, so that means we need to be even more diligent about what our energy drains and how are we inviting them into our lives, right? So sometimes we get involved because we feel obligated. Sometimes we get involved because we see someone who needs help and we just want to help everybody, right? Sometimes we get involved because our family members we're connected to our family members, therefore that by connection we get involved. There's lots of ways we get involved, but I want to tune you into a different sensation, to a different value system that may be what's already happening in your world. And hear me out, right? Hear me out here. So as we become more and more multidimensional in our capacities, it becomes more and more important for us to recognize how to surf the razor's edge of synchronicities, as in how do we surf reality in such a way where we're perfectly in harmony with the full circle synchronicities coming to us for our lives. Some people might call that magic. Other people might call that magnetics. Other people yet would say synchronicities, right? So regardless of what you call it, the feeling is the same. It's a razor's edge. As soon as you go one over too far off to one side or the other, you fall off that razor's edge, and there's a more of a hiccup in the giddy up to the synchronicities or the magnetics, right? So this next bar, this raise of bar of discernment, I want to put words to so you guys can requalify some of these things that are happening in your world. Okay, so I want you to think about you're opening up to more of yourself as a multidimensional being, and you're waking up to the reality that frequencies really are the core of everything, right? Everything is frequency. We may recognize it as that or we may not, but ultimately we have a feeling in our body when we are encountering frequencies. Now, when we have the feeling in our body when we're encountering frequencies, we may have thoughts and feelings about it, we may not. Versus when you're going into the 3D dynamics, you absolutely do have thoughts and feelings about what's happening in the 3D dynamics, right? So let me tune you in here. Imagine yourself on a day, your best day ever. Just imagine you and your best day ever and the feeling you had inside, right? Maybe there's a great big smile inside. You had a lot of love in your belly. And there is a feeling of being in harmony with all of the world. Yeah? You guys have had a day like that where you just feel like everything is just so gracefully and beautifully falling into place, and you're just with life that day, or maybe that hour, maybe that moment, right? Okay. This is what I call harmonic. You are harmonic within yourself. You are so at ease and so relaxed, you can actually feel the harmony inside of your being. And in being in that depth of harmony here allows you to appreciate the harmony out here. Okay. And when things are harmonic, they are so easy. You know, I had an experience very recently with someone who's just naturally very harmonic with me, and I just grabbed their arm and we start walking, and we instantly are walking completely synchronized, not trying to do anything. We're just synchronized in our walking. That is an example of someone being in harmony with you. Have you ever been walking with somebody and it's kind of like difficult to harmonize with them, and you notice your footsteps are not synchronized, and it's just kind of like, there's this discombobulation going? Okay, that's because there's something that is disharmonic going on between you. Now, most of the time it's subconscious, sometimes it is in our conscious awareness, but every time, I guarantee you, there is a feeling presenting in your body. And that feeling presenting in your body when it's harmonious is usually a relaxing feeling, an ease feeling inside of your body. When it's not harmonious, there's like an up and a pull kind of feeling happening in your body, like you're putting effort, right? So that is the difference between harmony and disharmony. And this is really, really important when we're navigating these turmoil times, these chaotic times, because the chaos is going to continue, but we can still find our harmonic position, our harmonic movement within the chaos. And when we pay attention and put a priority on feeling harmonic inside, while we're moving through our day, or while we're moving through a meeting, or while we're moving through a situation, when we stay tuned in to the harmonics of what's happening inside, this is how we can find those cherry points of grace and ease in those moments. And what I'm seeing here, what I'm noticing is with people, that there's a lot of us that have a savior syndrome. We want to help people. People need saving. People need help. They're blind. They're asleep. They're this. They're that. And I know I can see it also clearly from the outside looking in. I know I can help them. And then we step in and we try to help them. Now, when you do that, I want to challenge you to pay attention to how you're feeling. Does the feeling inside your body stay in the spectrum of harmonic when you're going in to help that person? Does it stay feeling good? Okay. Now, if it doesn't, that's your red flag. That's your red flag that you are stepping into a situation or stepping into a relationship with somebody who is not in harmony with you. Okay. And when things are not in harmony, it's very easy, it's very difficult to meet people where they're at. Versus when you have two people who are in harmony, it's very easy to meet each other where we're at. Now, that's not to say that you can't negotiate harmony, because you actually can, by being able to put your finger on what exactly needs to happen in order for this meeting to happen, right? And that takes a lot of reflection and being able to put words to things and defining, right? So there's a lot that goes into that. But once you're able to do it with the person, and they are in their yes to go into that situation, they're that much closer into coming into harmony with you. Okay, they're coming into harmony with you. And when you are helping someone who's coming into harmony with you, that is you doing the right thing. That is you feeling satisfied and motivated by doing the right thing. Okay. Now, if you're going into a situation to meet somebody and it's just disharmonic after disharmonic, you're no longer doing the right thing. You are now becoming a caretaker. You're becoming a savior for them, because they don't feel like they can help themselves and you don't think they can help themselves. Therefore, you're going to step up and do it because you can see exactly how they need help. Okay. That is not a harmonic situation for anybody. That actually disempowers everybody. And the reason why is because you're going to help. You are not in harmonic with them. They're not going to meet you. And eventually your help will fall flat. They will disappoint you in some way because they're not meeting you. And then they will be disappointed in some way because they have some kind of expectation like your help is going to get them somewhere. It doesn't happen. And now they are a victim of you and how you failed to help them. Versus if it's harmony that you're staying in, keeping in your awareness, if it's harmony that is really, really helpful, that's really important to you, you will tell them exactly what needs to happen in order for the harmonic to be met. And that way now they're meeting you. Now they're meeting you halfway. So you're helping them and they are helping themselves with the help you're giving them. And I have a great example for this. So a dear sister starshine of mine was, I think some of you guys already know the story, but I'll just repeat it because it's a really great example. A dear sister starshine of mine was exiting a terrible, terrible relationship. And it was like this horrific divorce kind of situation. And she was ended pretty much facing being homeless, right? So my husband and I saw this going on, and we felt like it's not right. It wouldn't be, we didn't feel right letting her sleep in her car. But at the same time, we're highly aware of not wanting that, if we just let her move in, that's us being the savior and she could just be there for months and months and months and months on end. Right? So in our conversation between each other, we explored what is the way we need her to show up for us to do the right thing with her. Okay, what were our needs for her to meet us in the harmonic for this to work out? And we did. We developed a criteria. All right, so she was going through a horrific divorce, and there was a lot of drama and a lot of terrible things were going on. So number one, we didn't want any of that coming to our house. So she had to keep it secret. She could not tell anybody where she was staying. That was one of the ground rules. The other one is that once she moves in, she needs to find a job ASAP, right? So she can dig herself out of a hole. The third thing in place was she had 6 weeks to save the money she needs and find a new place to live. Okay, those were our conditions. Oh, well, there was another condition, and that was that she was, because we were or are on a healing diet, and it's a really strict healing diet that's difficult to maintain. So we requested that she not bring junk food or anything else into the house. So there were some dietary things that we set because we didn't want that to disrupt our efforts in our healing diet process, right? So those were the ground rules, and those ground rules served to inform her what was important to us and how she could meet us in a way that was harmonic and that we all felt good about the situation, right? We all felt good about the situation. That way we weren't stepping in as savior. We were stepping in saying, hey, we can help you, but you have to meet us halfway. And she did, and then some, right? And it all worked out. We're still friends. We still love each other, all this stuff. A lot of times situations like that end badly because we don't take that extra mile to get those values, to hammer out the values of what's important for the harmonics to be so within the relationship. She said yes, we said yes, we all felt good about it. Yes, there were times where it was kind of hard, because of we're used to our own space together, that kind of thing. But we did it, and we felt good that we helped her, and she felt empowered, and that she was able to get on her feet, and everything was great. So that's just a mundane example of the kind of harmonics that I'm talking about. Here's another piece. We, as starseeds, as light workers, we kind of have this crazy belief that we have to accept everybody and all their flaws. We just have to accept them. Okay. Who says yes to that? Who says they have, tells themselves that? Okay. And I mean, yes, it's important to accept the reality that's in front of us. That is significant, but there's a place where that tips the scales into disempowerment. Okay. And here's what I mean. It's okay to accept people on their path, right? It doesn't mean that you need to let them into your world. It doesn't mean that you have to invite them into your space or into your life or into your Facebook community or into whatever. Okay. It's just a matter of, okay, I see your path. Your path is right there. I definitely am not in resonance with that, but I also recognize that you're on your soul's journey. I'm in no place to say anything about what your choice is, right? You have fun. You have fun with that. Good luck with that. And there you go. And then you put it down. You put it down. You do not need to carry them with you. You don't need to be responsible now for potentially waiting for an opening for them to open up to a truth. You don't need to be a part of it at all. If anything, you could just simply say, you know, my world is, and I heard this on a really cool, I can't remember what it was on, but I really loved the wording. And that is, my world is invitation only. If you want into my personal space, that means you are in harmony with my natural state of being. If you want into my circle of friends, my social circles, you want me to invite you into my social circles, that means you are harmonic with me and my value system and the value systems of my friends, right? It doesn't mean you guys are like-minded. It means that you're harmonic. Okay. And there is a huge difference because like mind, there's plenty of people who are similar in mind, but not in frequency. Okay. So there is that. I have a great example. So I have a new friend that came into my life, very different from me, very, very different from me in like every way, upbringing, age, interests, spiritual practices, everything completely different from me. But when we're sitting together, we can feel very relaxed in each other's company. It's like, it's very easy to be in harmony with each other. And it's not about our thoughts and opinions and belief systems. It's just the harmony is just naturally there. So because that's the case, I'm like, yes, I'm going to call this one my friend. Yes, I'm going to stay in contact with this person, invite them to things in my life. I actually am going to make time if I'm invited into their lives, right? Because there's a harmony there. Okay. And that means we can be very different people and interact in a way where it doesn't drain our energy. They're not a vampire. I'm not a vampire to them. They're not a vampire to me. They're not trying to meet me at some level that they're not really at. They're just naturally themselves and all their differences. I'm naturally myself and all my differences. And in that, we can feel that harmonic connection. Okay. So the reason why I'm going into this is because there's a lot of us that are stuck in disempowerment because we're committed into disharmonic connections. Okay. And we need to start raising the bar for our personal inner circle to make it invitation only. Only those who are truly harmonic with my beings am I going to welcome into my world. Only those are the ones I'm going to open my front door to and invite in. Only those are the invitations I'm going to accept. All the other invitations that, that we feel obligated to take just because we'd be rude not taking it, we need to exit. We need to exit out of that program because that is an energy drain. That is another level of disempowerment. That's a disempowerment game that we're stepping into, and we lose life force energy when we step into those disempowerment games. Those disempowerment games are like, say you have a circle of friends that you've been around for a really long time. You don't really feel like you're a frequency match anymore, but you attend just because you feel guilty not attending, right? Energy drain. You are a victim of your own guilt, and you are also wasting lots of life force energy in managing the situation when you're in their company. Okay. And it doesn't make anybody good, bad, right, or wrong. It's all about harmonics. We create our reality based on our harmonics. And if we keep saying yes to disharmony, we continue to create disharmony in our lives. If we decide, okay, my inner world, my inner circle, my space is invite only, and only those are who I feel harmony with can come in. Now you are putting your life force, focusing your life force and creating even more harmony in your world. You see what I mean? Okay, this is a different way of looking at it, but I think this is even more easier to discern because we can feel harmony when we're in the presence of it. We can feel when we're at ease with another person. Okay. Now, what happens when you're not at ease with any people? Okay, I'll get to that. That's another piece that I'll talk about. Let me first say hi to all the dear sister stars, sister brother starshines that are happening here. All right. Hey, Carol, how you doing? Lisa Marie, good to see you, darling. Destiny Reed, I just got an email about you. I hope you're well, darling. Beverly, good to see you. Sherry, hey, goddess. And Darren chimed in. Glad to see you, Darren. All right, then. All right, so we have Lisa Marie making comments. It says, I like to remind the person of their power and their medicine to elevate and help set a boundary for myself, not falling for playing out disempowering archetypes. Yes, yes, yes. So that's a real thing, because as light workers, as star seeds, right? We just see things in a very different way. And outside looking in, the problems that people have are so simple. So simple. If only our own problems were that simple, right? But the fact is that, a lot of people are addicted to disharmony. They're addicted to suffering. So in a lot of ways, maybe their ego driver says they want to be empowered, says they want to solve the problem, but subconsciously they don't believe it's possible, or they actually don't want to. Okay? For real. Because a lot of people definitely are not tuned in to the truth of their core being. They're not. They believe they are who they think they are. And who do they think they are? Who they think they are is a result of their programming and conditioning, who they're reflected to as being from the time they were born. Okay, now you guys think about your family. Does your family really understand who you are? Not likely. It's likely you're a black sheep. Maybe your mom understood you. Maybe your brother understood you. Maybe there's one person in your family that truly understood you, right? So, so you can imagine the reflections that were given to you throughout your life were not accurate reflections. They were distorted reflections. And you started coming to conclusions about yourself. And as you grew more and more and more, some event in your life happened that snapped you out of it and started going into a deep spiritual process where you wanted to find out who you really were, which is an unwinding process. It's a journey to deprogram all the lies that you bought into, to let go all of the conditioning that is affecting your worldview on a subconscious level. That's a journey, guys. So when you're trying to give advice to someone who has no idea who they are, they're quite literally not able to accept the advice. They're not able to put it into practice unless their spirit is present and it's time. And it's time for them. If it's time for them, they will recognize what you're saying, and you will actually feel an opening happening as you're with them, right? Which is a beautiful thing. So, but that's not you playing savior. That's you being called to a moment and doing the right thing. There's a difference. There's a huge difference between those two things. When your spirit is calling you to a moment and you're showing up all the way and you're being guided into what the right thing is, and you do it, right? And then you can see the fruits. You'll see the person open up, or you'll see the epiphany happening. You'll see something, you'll feel something, you'll sense something happened. And now you feel harmony inside because you showed up. And so does that other person. They feel shifted because they showed up, right? Where you have to pay attention is when you're in a situation like that and you're sharing and it just feels crap. It doesn't feel good at all. There's no harmony happening inside your body when you're sharing. Okay. That means that person is not really able to show up for what you're saying. They're not really there. Okay. Because they can't receive it. They're not ready to let go of who they think they are yet. They're not ready to question themselves on that deep of a level yet. So that means you have to decide, do I encourage the disharmonic coming into my life, or do I just stay neutral about it and just let the cards fall where they may, right? I'm learning a lot about invitation only. I'm deciding that I only want the people I want in my world around me. And the more I do that, the more some miracles start to unfold, right? It's like I get bursts, I get like long sustained energy. I'm like, my inspiration just keeps going. It's like a never ending fountain. My ability to just manifest and do things and all this stuff is just there so much more easily now that I've decided that my harmonic is staying the way it is, and I'm only inviting those that can be in my harmonic, that are harmonic with me. Okay. And this is where I also learned that it doesn't mean that the people need to be just like me. It doesn't mean that they need to be like-minded. It's not the truth at all. It's a soul thing. It's an inner being thing. Okay. And this is how we find the path. This is how we find that razor's edge and stay on it, by keeping tuned in to our harmonics, how we feel inside, the inner harmonic when we're taking action on things. Okay. All right. So let me go over that disempowerment triangle one more time, because I talk about this pretty often, but I want to go over it one more time for you guys so you can like start to feel the difference in your body, right? So I asked you to imagine that best day ever that you had and remember how it felt inside and that beautiful harmony that happens inside, right? All right, now I want you to imagine a triangle, and at the top of the triangle is victimhood. Okay, now imagine the last time you were talking to somebody who was expressing a story, experience of theirs, where they were experiencing victimhood. They were feeling a victim to something. They were blaming something for their feeling. And they were sharing it with you. Do you remember how you felt when they were sharing with you? Okay. Do you remember how it felt? You felt when they were sharing with you. Now, I'm not talking about what you were empathetically picking up on, right? No, I'm talking about you can have your empathic abilities, your empathic data sets, and the data sets of how you're feeling at the same time. Now, if you lost complete touch with how you're feeling and you're purely in the empathic data sets, you're already in the power over dynamic game, and you're already in a disempowerment field without even realizing it. So the key here is staying in touch with how you feel in addition to those other empathic data sets. So feel back. How are you feeling at that time when the person was sharing with you the blame of the victimhood? Okay. Now going to the scenario where you could stay in contact with how you were feeling. Was there a continued harmonic inside, or did things start to feel disharmonic inside? And when you try to speak, like to offer your take on the situation, was that feeling a good feeling, like a harmonic feeling, or was that feeling like a wrenched feeling, a closing off feeling? Okay. And this is important because if it was a wrenched or a closing off feeling when you were sharing your take on the situation, you stepped into the disempowerment triangle without even realizing it. You don't even know what happened that got you into the disempowerment triangle. If you're able to stay in that feeling of harmony inside yourself while you're conveying your take on things, now it's a harmonic exchange. That person, that's indicating that person is meeting you. That person is in harmony with you. Okay. That means what you said actually had somewhere to land. Okay. Now, whether the person externally says, I hear you, I agree, I believe you, and all that stuff, just because they externally say that, it doesn't mean that's actually how they're receiving what you're saying. Okay. This is why it's really important for you to stay in contact with how you're feeling when this is going down, because as long as that harmony feeling is staying with you during the exchange, that's how you know it's an authentic exchange. They are truly hearing you. They are truly showing up. They are expressing a truth with you, right? It's actually an authentic exchange. Versus when you're feeling this disharmonic twist inside, this is just one ego driver, the ideas of who they think they are that are disconnected from their truth being shared with you, and they really want someone to sympathize with the story that they're in. They're not really interested in solving it. They just want to commiserate. And that's where you end up feeling extremely disharmonic in that scenario, in that situation. Okay. So that's one corner of the triangle. Now we go into another corner of the triangle, the perpetrator. The perpetrator is when you're put into the perpetrator role. You said you would do this. You said if you did this, I'd let you, it would help me, and it didn't. You said if you did this, then, it didn't work out the way you thought it was, and now I'm in this shithole and it's all your fault. Right? That's you being made the perpetrator, someone else making you the perpetrator because how you helped them wasn't good enough. Or maybe they make themselves the victim of you being honest with them, right? Again, how you navigate the situation is notice the harmony. When you are talking with somebody and that disharmonic inside is there, it doesn't matter what you say is the truth or not. It's not going to be received or welcomed as the truth. Okay? That's you stepping into the perpetrator game without even realizing it. You're just trying to help. You're just trying to be kind and helpful and generous because that's your true nature. But the person is not in harmonic relationship with you. So what you say is going to get twisted. It's going to get inverted. It's going to be the opposite. They're going to receive it the opposite way. They're going to receive it as you telling them that they're wrong in some way versus you offering helpful insight that might help, that might assist them in their process, right? So that's the second corner of the triangle. Then we have the third corner of the triangle, and that's the savior piece. And the savior piece is the one that I believe light workers have the hardest time with because we are warm, kind, generous people. We do not like to see people suffering if they don't need to. We want to help. But the fact is, when we do this, it becomes an energy drain. And what is the difference between helping doing the right thing versus helping turning into caretaking? It's that disharmonic. If you start to feel disharmonic inside when you're doing a nice thing for somebody, that's your cue. That's your cue that there's something off going on, and it's an energy drain, and it's going to turn into a disempowerment situation somewhere along the line. Okay. So it takes a lot of practice and commitment to stay in connection with how you feel when you're going about your day. Because as soon as we get excited about something, we're off in mind thoughts. And now we're disconnected from the body completely. We're in the excitement of our mind thoughts, right? Just one example. So you want to just check yourself. Yes, it feels good to be excited, but then check yourself and bring yourself back into the feeling here. And that harmony is key. Feel the harmony inside. It feels like a warm smile. It feels like a relaxation inside. Stay within that harmonic. And if you make choices to stay in the harmonic and expand the harmony with all of your other connections, then that is stepping into the beauty and grace of the synchronicities of this world. That is how just exactly what you need falls in your lap. It just comes to you without you having to work really hard or, plan out the wazoo or, what I mean, have total control of the situation. You're opening yourself up for miracles when you stay in your harmony. Okay. So that's the bar that's getting raised. We need to stay in our optimum energy levels in order to navigate these tumultuous times, these chaotic turmoil times, which, over the next few months are just going to get worse. Okay. My feeling is it's going to get way worse than what it is right now. And I'm not saying that to fearmonger. I'm saying that so you guys can understand that it's trial by fire. It's really important that we learn how to manage this life as a multidimensional being without falling into the three-dimensional collective nightmare. Okay. Because people who aren't awake to themselves, they're trapped in the nightmare. We as multidimensional beings have the power to dream our reality into being. We have the power to create what we envision for ourselves and our community. And we know we have that power. Okay. So I'm saying this is that bar getting raised of discernment for us. That bar getting raised into saying only yes, invitation only. Yes to the harmony. That's the only thing I'm saying yes to, is that feeling of harmony. And as you do that, things will fall into place. And no matter how much turmoil happens, no matter how chaotic it gets, you're always going to find yourself in the right time, in the right place. Okay. All righty. Let's go on to a much more, serious note. So all of you here are way showers in some kind of capacity. Maybe you work with people one-on-one. Maybe you work with people one to many. Maybe you're just a star shine that floats through your world and the universe brings you situations to show up and trailblaze something for somebody, crack someone open, activate somebody, help someone transition out of this life, or help bring someone into the world of this life, right? Maybe, maybe there's just things like this happening. And this is important because what our unique wayshowership looks like is different for everybody. So my style of wayshowership is not going to look like your style of wayshowership, right? Another starshine, the way they show up in their wayshowership is going to be very different than someone on the opposite side. So how we show up to our wayshowership is completely up to us following our harmonics, right? But one thing I have heard across the board many, many times over, and I'm saying this is by talking to starseeds, at least 100 starseeds over the past 2 years. There is one big piece that is showing up for many of us, and that is being a death doula. Okay, you guys raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about, where you felt a call like this too. And I don't mean being a professional death doula, though it could mean that for you if you have the other kinds of skill sets. You have the nursing skill set, about palliative care, you know about end of life care because you work hospice or whatever. So there's definitely that kind of category. But then there's the everyday person category that doesn't necessarily have those skill sets, that are being called into a death doula situation. Okay. This is because we're multidimensional beings, and the consciousness of humanity is in the process of getting liberated right now. And part of that liberation process is transcending the need of the intermediary realms between being in a body and returning back to creation, to creator. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that, darling. Okay. This is really important. Really, it's important because you guys have heard, maybe even felt certain realities, like this is a prison planet. Like, yeah, you might leave this body and go to the other side, but the other side isn't all the way home. You're in a reincarnational cycle where you have to be reborn whether you want to or not. This is the story of the bardos, you guys, from the Tibetan Book of the Dead. These adepts traveled through the space of the intermediary space called the bardos, and pretty much gave a step-by-step instruction how to navigate the bardos so you can liberate yourself from the reincarnational cycles of this planet. Okay, there was a reason why they want to bring that knowledge forward, and it was so they can keep the participations in their spiritual lineage liberated and free. So as the lamas and the Rinpoches and the different beings would leave, ascend, or what do you want to call that, leave their bodies and come back again, they can come back again with access to their memories. They wouldn't have to forget everything. Versus when you unsuccessfully traverse the intermediary places between life and death, you instantly go into a reincarnation cycle, and you don't remember who you were before. You don't remember the things in your soul's journey. You don't remember that you're an infinite being in a biosuit. You don't remember that you've existed in many star systems and galaxies. You don't remember any of that. You're like a blank slate, perfectly ripe to be programmed and told what reality is. But of course, we're not told the truth, we're told a lie. So we never get to wake up because we're constantly told a frame up that's not the truth. Okay, now I don't know if you guys know this about the certain Buddhist lineages of Rinpoches and Lamas. So what happens is that a Rinpoche, a Lama, and there's other titles that are kind of escaping me right now. What happens is that when they cross over, they have a beloved disciple that was like their companion, that was their caretaker, so to speak. Okay, they were a disciple that were with them night and day, and was like a companion / caretaker. And it's a deep love relationship. It's not a hanky-panky relationship. It's a deep love relationship between Rinpoche and disciple, or Lama and disciple, whoever that one disciple is. But there's a responsibility put on that disciple when the master leaves, when the master leaves their body. Number one, when the master leaves their body or goes into samadhi, the disciple watches over the body and caretakes the body for at least 2 weeks to make sure that the master is not going to come back, because sometimes they do. They'll leave for weeks at a time. But evidently you can't leave your body for that long of a time because it starts to break down. So 2 weeks is the cutoff point. So if the master leaves the body and doesn't come back after 2 weeks, the disciple is in charge of the death rites for that master. Okay. And it's a long process in the tradition, but what they do eventually is cremate the body. In the cremation of the body, the master leaves jewels behind, literal rubies, diamonds, emeralds, pearls get left behind in the ashes after the death rites and the burning ritual. Okay, this is a true story. So they take these gems and they use a divination process with these gems to call to the spirit. So when that Rinpoche Lama is reincarnated, they can find the reincarnation of that spirit. They use the connection of these gems. So the gems is the intermediary that allows them to make that connection so they can find the reincarnation of the Rinpoche / Lama. They take them from a time when they're an infant, usually infant up to 2 years old. They take them and immediately immerse them into the teachings to stimulate their memory. Okay, so by time they develop into a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 13-year-old like this, they have their memories intact, and they remember the disciple. They remember their caretaker, right? And then they instantly pick up where they left off, and they continue their relationship until eventually the disciple perhaps will make his own status of Rinpoche. It all depends. So this is a tradition that has been alive for thousands of years. According to the bone, which are the indigenous to the Himalayan mountains in Tibet, Nepal, that area. That is a tradition that has been intact for over 45,000 years. Yes, 45,000 years. I know that blows the timeline out of typical history, but according to their stories and their practices, that's how far back their Rinpoches go. 45,000 years. They're not the only ones that have this kind of story. There's also something called the hand tribes of the Maya. Now, that tribe, it's a really popular picture that went around where it's a handprint with the spiral in the middle. That is the logos of the hand tribe. So what happens with the hand tribe? It's a tribe of warriors that graduate into priesthood. And their graduation into priesthood is dying and then having their reincarnation found by their companion, by their it's not called disciple in their case, it was protege, right? Their student. So the priest would pierce the heart of the warrior would die instantly, navigate the bardos successfully, choose to come back in being reincarnated, and then it's up to their proteges to find that reincarnation, and then they're raised from the time of infancy or toddlerhood into the priesthood of the Mayan culture. And so this is how you become a high level clergy priest within that culture. You transcend the veils of death. Why am I telling all of this guy stuff? All this because humanity is waking up on a collective level. The reason why you guys are being called into being death doulas is because you have the capacity. You may not know it, but you have the capacity. It is possible to shift the energy of that person in such a way where they are liberated from having to navigate the bardos. They are liberated from having to go through the life review. Okay. Now there's lots of people that share their near-death experiences, and they talk about going into the light. And once they go into the light, they see their beloveds, After they see their beloveds, their whole life flashes before their eyes. It's called the life review. And in that life review, you have reactions, you have thoughts and feelings about things that you've done in your life. But this time from a completely different perspective than where you were when you were making those decisions. Now, that reaction that you're having to your life review turns into a conclusion, a belief, even a contract, a vow, a promise that carries over into your akasha. So for example, say you are a terrible mom and you see all these situations where you realize, oh my God, I was such a terrible mom. And then you say, I never want to be a bad mom again. And you have a lot of feeling behind it. Okay, boom, you're incarnated. Now, because of this agreement, you're going to be the best mom you possibly can on the subconscious level, whether it's in your truth or not. It doesn't matter. That a promise that you made to yourself is louder than what your truth is. Okay, so then you're going to find yourself in situations that are disempowering because of that life review. So imagine all the life reviews you've gone over where you had regrets in your life. No, very few people escape this part of the reality. The number one thing that people talk about on their deathbed are their regrets. Number one thing. That means everybody has a level of regrets when they're lying in their deathbed. Oh, I wish I did this differently. I wish I said I was sorry earlier. I wish I could take those words back. Okay, that's a burden on us. And when we leave the body with that burden, with that issue unresolved, it impacts the person when they're going through the intermediary stages of crossing over. And it impacts the DNA of all of their lineage, the children, the children's children, the children's children's children. Okay, so everybody gets impacted by these unresolved regrets, these unresolved issues. So starseeds, listen up, guys. You guys are multidimensionals. You have an awareness beyond the human experience. You have the capacity to liberate your loved ones from this. You have the capacity to liberate your children from the unresolved issues of your parents and grandparents. You have that capacity. This is partially why we're doing death rites for the module 1 of the Healer Acceleration Lab, because it is so powerful for the person who's passing to not have to do the intermediary step and go right up to their light body level and beyond. And now they are no longer trapped in the reincarnational cycle of this planet. Not only do they forego the life review, they also release all regrets. They can leave with a light, with a heart light as a feather, and then they can continue on. And if they want to reincarnate on this planet, it's a choice. It's not an obligation. And if they don't want to reincarnate on this planet, they can go anywhere they want in the multiverse. That's a frequency match to reincarnate. They have the freedom to do that. They're not trapped by karma, which is another program, right? They're not trapped by cause and effect. They are liberated and free to go wherever it is that they want. Okay. The more and more we do this as starseeds for our beloveds, and it can be done at the time of passing, it can be done the day before passing, it can be done a year after someone has passed. It doesn't matter. The fact is that you do it. You bring that soul into a death rite situation, and you start recapitulating with them and helping them drain the energy out. They get liberated beyond belief. And we've done this a few times within the light body community. Recently we did one because there was a tragic exiting. One of the family members had a tragic sudden accident, and we did death rites for him, and it was capital, all caps, amazing to watch this soul get liberated, starting off with sadness and regret, and then through the process, complete the process feeling like an absolute miracle, where the soul actually feels like a massive miracle just happened, and had no idea of, of no idea up until that moment of the truth of who they are. And then they wake up to the truth of who they are, and they go straight back to source. No intermediary necessary. Okay. That soul becomes liberated. The kin, the physical kin, become liberated. They no longer have to live the life patterns that were unresolved by that person. Okay. Okay. That's an excellent question, Beverly. So Beverly says, if you do it a year after passing, what if they've already reincarnated? Okay. So what I have to say about that is that time on the other side is not the same as time here. Okay. And it's multidimensional, as in you're not just one point of light. You are a gazillion points of light having all of your incarnational experiences at one time. Okay. So when you start going into an understanding like that, all the linear ideas go out the window, because they're not a match, right? So it can be 20 years, it could be 100 years, it could be 1,000 years after they passed, and the death rites will still work. Okay. Because once you go into that realm of energy, there is no time, there is no space. You see what I mean? And it's your intent of calling great, 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 great grandmother Susan forward to help. Because, all right, so you're calling on those ancestors. If you're reaching that far back in history, you're calling on that ancestor because you're guided to. Like, there's something about their spirits calling you for you to help them with something, to aid, to show up to something. So say it's, great, 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 great grandmother Susan, you call her forward. And when you do that and you start doing the recapitulation and the death rites, she shows up for that. Spirit coalesces for that. And in that you liberate. It becomes a liberation process. So it doesn't matter how much linear time is happening. Its spirit is coalescing exactly the energy that needs to, in order for the death rite to happen. I hope that makes sense the way I'm saying it. I have another example, and this one was so sad, so tragic. It was about a 14-year-old boy. No, I'm sorry, 15-year-old boy. My youngest daughter was dating a young man who had like some bipolar stuff go on, and he was on a lot of meds, and he hated his meds. He wanted off his meds because he was numbed out. He was really unhappy, and life sucked. And he was relatively suicidal because of the meds, and he was forced to take them. He didn't want to, but he was forced to take them. And so him and my daughter get together, and she's a ray of sunshine. What can I say? My youngest daughter, she's a ray of sunshine. She walks into the sun. It's like, or walks into a room. It's like the sun came into the room. That's just how she is, And of course, he's attracted to that. So they get off the phone one particular hard, difficult evening of conversation, and he promised her that he would not hurt himself, and that he would see her in the morning when they go to school. Well, that night, he accidentally hung himself with his necktie. And his mom found him the next morning. Now, everybody and their brother knew before my daughter knew. So she ended up hearing via the grapevine, kids being terrible kids, that something happened to him, So she, it was really, really, really difficult for her. So, but he saw that. And from the other side, he saw that. So he came to us. And because he knew I could see spirits, so he came to us, and I was really angry. I was like, you broke my daughter's heart, just like I knew you would. You know what I mean? I was kind of like, get out of here. I was mad. But so when I was by myself, he wouldn't come. But when she was around me, he would come. So, so she's around me and he comes, and I'm like, all right, so, Ryan's here, and he's doing this thing, and he has a message for you. So I finally agreed to convey the message, which I did, which she got a lot of solace out of. But then I had this thought, his family, I think, were Catholic, and there's this belief in the Catholic faith that if you kill yourself, you automatically go to hell. And I was thinking, that's a terrible matrix for this poor kid to go into. You know, he was already in a terrible place in this life. He was really having a really hard time so young in this life that I didn't think it was right for the torture to continue in the afterlife. So I decided to ask him if he would be okay if I did death rites for him. And I did. And it was an amazing experience. He woke up completely out of the matrix of who he thinks he is. He first woke up to his light body. Then he woke up to his star family. And he realized that he wasn't even from this place. He realized who he was as a star being and became completely liberated and moved on. And I can tell my daughter somehow came to peace with him. And I really feel like it was connected to the death rites. It wasn't over though. I'm driving down the road and he comes back to me. He comes back to me with this big wave of gratitude. I mean, I'm like laughing and bawling my eyes out because of all the gratitude that's being conveyed to me. And then he shows me that he decided to come back again, but this time as a little girl. And he showed me the family. And he wanted to convey one last measure of gratitude for both me and my youngest daughter. Now, if we didn't do that, because of all the strong emotional responses to how he died and how the life situation was leading up to him dying, and the terrible fighting and blame game the parents were doing because of their heartbreak and pain, he would have stayed deeply buried in that turmoil. He would have been reborn with all of that burden upon him. Okay. So when you starseeds, when you're getting called to be death doula, this is the kind of thing you're being called to do, to step into your multidimensional capacities and liberate that being. Okay. And if you don't learn death rites, you'll figure it out, you know, in the moment. I'm teaching death rites. So, because I want the people in our academy to really be empowered in their own family, in their own situations. So as things happen, they can show up with confidence, and they can show up with clarity, and they can show up trusting themselves as they do the unknown, right? Really trusting themselves as they step into the unknown. So that's what the people in the academy are stepping into. You know, we do need to step into the unknown, but when you step into the unknown in a way where you really trust yourself, it's a completely different experience than when you're full of doubt. You know, when you're full of doubt, you're on eggshells. Am I doing this right? Am I, you know, and that has so much of your bandwidth. You're not really fully present with what's in front of you. But when you feel at ease and you feel the harmony inside while you're going into that unknown, now that much more of your bandwidth is available to be fully present with the energy that's in front of you. You see? So that's why a training like this is so valuable. And I also wanted to frame up, this is why so many of you are being called to be a death doula for your grandmother, for your father, for your brother, for, you know, your family, and maybe your loved ones, and maybe in a bigger scope as well. You know, my father's side of the family is Russian, and I don't know if you guys know this, there's something called the Great Purge that happened between 1918 and 1936. Millions, 10 million Russians died and or went missing during that time frame. Okay, this is during the Bolshevik rebellion, and then the massacre afterwards. So that kind of trauma carries through the generations. So in that kind of situation, just think about your own life history, your ancestry. When you know that there's been a major drama in your ancestry, you can reach back to them and offer them death rites, and let the suffering, let the trauma end with them. Okay? You can do that. You have the ability to do that. We have the capacity to do that. So when I'm called, I do that. I do this for my grandfather. I do this for my great grandfather. I do this for the beings in my family that I get called to do that for. And something liberates, something gets lifted from me. I feel it when I do this. A major dynamic that's been in my family history because of the Great Purge is betrayal. But it's not betrayal between races. It's not betrayal between nationalities. It's betrayal of brother against brother, neighbor against neighbor. So it's a close personal betrayal. So think about your ancestry. Do you have indigenous blood in you? You don't need me to tell you the story about that. That. Do you have German blood in you? You know, there's history about that. Do you have African blood in you, right? Again, another whole level of generational trauma. Do you have Australian within you? Do you have Siberian within you? Do you have Greek within you? Greek is another one with major trauma. The sisterhood, the sacred sisterhood of parthenogenesis got infiltrated by Anunnaki. They were forced to breed and bring Anunnaki souls to create demigods, that took over the belief systems of this planet. And they're in charge of the mind control, the mind poison that's affecting everybody to this day. So if you have Greek heritage, that too needs unwound. Okay. So I hope this is landing. You guys are seeing where this is coming in at, right? You're being called, your spirit's being called to these situations for a reason. It's because you're a multidimensional. You have a capacity. You have a capacity to liberate, to play your part in the liberation process. Your capacities aren't there for you to be hero. You're not here to save the world. You're here to be who you really are in the world. And because of that, you have a multidimensional ripple effect on everybody around you. Okay. Your authenticity affects people. Your capacities affect people, right? So hopefully in this chat, I've been able to draw those value systems, a clearer picture of how this looks for you. So you don't continually step into that disempowerment triangle. You understand how to step into helping people where it's in harmony, where it's empowering, and it doesn't become a disempowering thing. Now you know what it feels like. Now I drew a picture for you, what it feels like inside of you when you're meeting someone to help them in a harmonic way, where they're meeting you harmonically, right? And I drew the picture of why you're being called into those death doula situations. Okay. So I really hope this is helpful for you guys. And if you guys are drawn, and for those of you who feel like you're being continually called into the death doula situation, I highly encourage you. And Beverly, if you're still here, please, if you can, post the link for the module 1 of the Healer Acceleration Lab. I invite you guys to check out the training that starts October 14th. What we're doing is recapitulation and death rites. It's a 2-month training where you go through all the processes of how to liberate somebody who's in their dying process. But you also go through the processes on how to liberate yourself from stuck energies so you can enhance your connection to dream time. So there's 2 folds. Dream time is deeply connected into death and dying. And we're going into the Samhain time of the year. This is the time of the year where the veils are very thin, October and November. Okay. And that's why we're doing this training during this time, is because that dream time and the veils between life and death are very thin. So you guys are really going to see a lot of, juxtapositions of before and after, because those veils are so thin. Okay, so the after this video is over and the link and the video post, Beverly will post. Actually, can you do both here and in the comments? Can you do both? That would be great, because some people maybe won't be able to come back and check, but right here they can check it now. They can click on it now and look at it. So yeah, so we're being called into the unknown. This piece about staying in harmony with yourself is a key piece of remaining in your power and not draining energy, so you can stay at your optimal capacity. Beverly's going to post a link to the module 1 if you want to look more deeply into becoming a death doula. There's also an option to do the Healer Acceleration Lab for the entire 13 months, which is an extremely comprehensive training, guys. I mean, this is a training like no one, you're not going to find this training anywhere on this planet. So after you learn about death and dying and recapitulation, you learn about the keepers, working with sacred keepers, the ones that have been working with humanity for eons of time, and new paradigm keepers that are coming into the scene. You'll learn how to connect with them, how to communicate with them, how to work with them in your healing work, in your dream work, in your personal work, okay? And then the modules after that is how to clear group energies, how to clear the Akasha for entire groups of people, how to extract entities from entire groups of people, how to clear constructs from entire groups of people, how to facilitate a multidimensional forgiveness practice for groups of people. So this is like really skyrocketing your abilities. If you feel called to this training, this happening over the next 13 months is a game changer if you really step into it with your fullness. Because I believe that the paradigm of healer client is changing. It's a we game now. It's not a me and you game. It's a we game. And the healing happens when we do it in groups. Profound healing happens when we're doing it in a community. You see what I mean? When we're doing it in community, that is so much more impactful. Yes, individual sessions are useful on a personal level, of course. Absolutely, right? People still have great experiences one-on-ones. But I'm saying when you're able to resonate with a group of people releasing things that have been plaguing humanity for a long period of time, that's like taking it to a whole nother level, taking it to an entirely another level. So that's what the Healer Acceleration Lab is about, starting October 14th. Module 1 goes from October 14th to the end of November. And then we will start the next module in December. So Beverly will post the link so you guys can have access to that and check it out. If you guys are super interested in doing the 13-month, I ask you guys to book a discovery call and talk with us. We will help you assess. It's really, really important that you're all in, right? So you talk with us, we will feel everything out, we'll make recommendations, we'll say, yes, absolutely, this is 100% fit for you, or we'll say, okay, maybe you need to slow down, maybe module 1 is the place where you begin and then see where you're at after, or maybe, you know, the core curriculum is where you want to begin, or whatever. So we're not here to like sell, we're here to help and place you in what's right for you. We want to do what's right for you. That's the highest priority of those discovery calls. So like I said, those will be links that are posted in the comments to this video. I encourage you guys to check it out. Don't wait, because October 14th is happening soon. It's coming soon. There's only one more day left here in September, and it's going to be October. All right, guys. Love you lots. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to be part of the conversations that get cultivated in these chats, please check out us on social media. You have the Rise of the Multidimensional Human Group on Facebook. You have the Multidimensional Human Group on Telegram, and of course, we're also on Instagram as Multidimensional Accelerator, and our YouTube channel, Lightbody Academy. So, if you want to dive into these conversations or help spark them, go ahead and engage those communities, start up conversations, talk with people. But they're both groups are filled with really great people. It's not like the typical, you know, crappy group where people are cutting on each other. No. These are people who are awake, and they are respectful, and they know that there's a difference in opinions, and that's what makes things great. Okay, they have a very different view of things than the typical human. So engage in those conversations, bring them forward, and I look and chime in, and I see where, you know, what feels really important to continue to talk about, and that's what I take into these chats. Okay, all right, guys, love you. I'm out. I hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.